Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is my pleasure to be here with you today. And after hearing about the philosophy of beauty, of happiness, and of freedom, I want to discuss with you an incredibly topic. That is status anxiety and freedom. First off, let us start with fingers. Okay. So here are a group of fingers, regular fingers with smiles. And now what do you see? Why do you think those fingers are suddenly unhappy when they stand short in their tallest one and full? I mean, have they individually diminished in size, quantity, or policy? Right, the answer is no. The fingers themselves do not incur any changes in magnitude nor quality. Rather, it is their surroundings that changed, which caused them to be unhappy of themselves or even anxious of their surroundings. Great. Now you might ask me, okay, but why fingers? Well, I didn't invent this concept, and British writer and philosopher Alan Dingwall did. Here it is. And when I opened his book, known as Status Anxiety last May, it possibly changed my life. Let's rewind our memory back to May, because that was an important time. How many of you felt the same stress that I did when Beijing and Shanghai were the only two important cities that canceled our AP exams last year? I mean, I personally went all through the roof because, working in a talented and hardworking community here in Region Number 80 is tolerable. But as you see the rest of the country progressing its plan, despite yourself, that's where the real anxiety comes in. I mean, we felt left behind. We're being left behind of others in this race, or so-called rank or status in this gigantic pool of international students. And what is even worse is the fact that the bar is getting higher over time. 10 years ago, let's say, 60 out of 100 would be a pass, and we were content to move on then. But now, with more people scoring 80, 60 feels like a disaster. And everyone is trying to score an 80 now, not because we're inherently trained to do so, but because we have seen others do it all the time. Right. And now the solution sounds very simple, is to stop comparing with other people and focus on yourself. But why is it so difficult? Today, with Bolden's help, let's dive into achieving freedom and growing anxiety in today's Minute Talks. Okay. First things first. The primary cause of status anxiety, according to Bolden, is proximity and envy. Think about this. Let's say you're majoring in economics. Why are you more likely to be anxious or envious of an exceptional economist student in your class rather than, let's say, Steve Jobs? Because, well, Steve Jobs is much bigger than your peer, probably. But it is the fact that it is not the greatest disproportion between us and others that produces pressure and dissatisfaction of ourselves, but ironically, the proximity. To put it into other words, is that if we don't relate to them, we don't envy them, and vice versa. This concept applies especially well in a school setting, which institutions are built upon holding common standards. You see, we are of similar ages. We wear the same uniforms, we take the same tests, and we're measured against the same GPA. And when the system is not used correctly, it can actually produce a lot of pressure and trouble. According to Bolton, the closer two people are in age, background, the process of identification, the more there is a danger of envy. And so, think about a very familiar scenario that we've all experienced before right here. Choose a class with a peer that have similar, let's say, interests and ability as you. And if they happen to score a test 3 points higher than you, either because they worked hard or they got lucky, you tend to feel that irresistible anxiety inside you, to feel that, oh, I would have done better, or I should have scored higher than him or her. You tend to feel that irresistible anxiety to crash into the race to life and taking up more space than once belonged to each of us. That brings me to my second cause, which is expectation. We're easily anxious nowadays because we're constantly told and expected to be anything we want. First off, thanks to the invention of internet, users across mass media nowadays are bombarded with information every day. And regardless of the reliability and sources, glorified stories and images fly all over set a lot of our expectations wrong. Next up, this one's even worse. Success stories. Our generation possibly grew up listening to a lot of these stories, like the American dream model or the rags to riches narrative. They usually sound something like this. So the heroes usually begin their journey in disadvantaged situations, either with identity or financial crisis. And through what is called hard work and determination, they will have to amass great fortune and wealth at the very end of the journey. Let's take a few familiar examples. J.K. Rowling. So she started out in, I would say, poverty, and wrote The Philosopher's Stone, the first book of the Harry Potter series, on a piece of napkin in a coffee shop. But then she made it into one of the most popular, or let's say best-selling authors ever. And Bill Gates, so this guy is very interesting because he dropped out of college, he didn't even finish school, but he started Microsoft. So after hearing stories like these, it seems like our generation has no choice but to succeed right away because we're standing at the very peak of the human journey. We don't have to worry about food and clothes. We are able to read and write, and potentially learn to study abroad. Well, hopefully we do. And so it seems like given all the resources and fairness that we have right now, we have no choice but to succeed right away. But is that reality? In Lost in Meritocracy, Joaquin Kern writes, I'm the system's pure product, clever and adaptable. Not so much educated as livestock, but not adaptable. This wall, in my opinion, is the result of an increasingly crowded race to the point at which there were no space at all. So, with the whole quote and the whole speech sounding as Coco as reality, how might we possibly help ourselves or change our views around to see things? Let's go back to the fingers for a moment. Please remember that there are many other dimensions besides height in this case. They're not just taller or shorter, but they're also thicker and thinner. Hats or rings, and even nail polish. There are many other ways to define success and what is best for us in this world. And we should all have our own standard that, according to Bolton, should have nothing to do with status as it is currently defined in industrial capitalism nowadays. Please forget about success stories. Furthermore, because remember that there are so many random factors in life that underplays the so-called complete equality or you get what you deserve in today's meritocracy statement. And last but not least, for those in the midst of college applications and chaos like me, remember that your life doesn't end here. It is only just the beginning. And remember that you're the one and only finger in this world, and there is no one else.